Lily pulled up to the old Victorian house. It loomed large, a shadow against the setting sun. The paint was peeling, the garden overgrown. This was her new home. She took a deep breath, a mix of excitement and fear in her heart. It was a fresh start, a chance to leave the past behind. As she stepped inside, the air felt heavy, thick with the scent of dust and time. Sunbeams slanted through the dusty windows, illuminating dancing dust motes. The house creaked around her, a symphony of forgotten sounds. Lily smiled. It was perfect. She spent the next few days unpacking, each room revealing its own secrets. The house, despite its age, held a strange charm. It was like stepping back in time, a world away from the hustle of city life. The silence was broken only by the creaking floorboards and the rustling of leaves outside. It was both unsettling and comforting. Days turned into weeks, and Lily found herself drawn to the attic. It was a space untouched by time, a treasure trove of forgotten memories. Trunks overflowed with old clothes, books lay forgotten on dusty shelves, cobwebs draped everything like delicate lace. There in the corner stood a magnificent mirror. Its ornate frame, crafted from dark wood, was intricately carved with strange symbols. The glass itself was cloudy, blurred with age. It seemed to pulse faintly in the dim light. Lily was drawn to it, compelled to uncover its secrets. She ran her fingers over the cold glass, feeling a jolt of energy run through her. The air grew thick, charged with something unknown. Lily shivered, a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. There was something different about this mirror, something not quite right. Despite the unease that crept up her spine, Lily couldn't bring herself to move away. The mirror held her captive, its tarnished surface reflecting something more than just her own image. It was as if it held its breath, waiting for something to happen. Night fell, casting long shadows across the attic floor. Lily found herself drawn back to the mirror, unable to resist its pull. She lit a kerosene lamp, its flickering light dancing across the dusty surfaces. The mirror seemed to gleam in response, its surface now clearer, sharper. A flicker of movement at the edge of her vision. A shadow, dark and undefined, moved within the depths of the mirror. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, but it remained, swirling in the depths of the mirror like ink in water. It was gone as quickly as it had appeared, leaving her staring at her own startled reflection. She backed away from the mirror, her pulse racing. That night, Lily lay awake, the image of the shadow seared onto the back of her eyelids. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of wind in the trees outside her window, sent shivers down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The following day, she avoided the attic. She told herself she was being silly, that her imagination was getting the better of her. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Drawn back to the attic, Lily stood before the mirror once more. This time, she was ready. She would prove to herself that it was all in her head. The mirror reflected her image back at her, clear and undistorted. Then, the mirror shimmered. This time, it was not a fleeting shadow. A scene flickered into view within its depths. A room, dimly lit, its walls lined with bookshelves. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the floor. And before the fire, seated in a high-backed chair, was a figure. Section 5. Whispers. The figure was tall and slender, shrouded in darkness. Lily couldn't make out any details, only the vague outline of a man. He sat perfectly still, his gaze fixed on something beyond the mirror's edge. Lily stared, transfixed, her heart pounding in her chest. Then, the figure moved. It tilted its head, as if listening to something. Its lips moved, forming words that Lily couldn't quite hear. The sound sent chills down her spine, a low, guttural whisper that seemed to slither around the room. Suddenly the whispers grew louder, clearer. Lily strained to make sense of the words, her blood running cold as she realized they were directed at her. "Lily," the voice hissed, her name a strangled whisper on the air. "Come closer, Lily." Terror rooted Lily to the spot. She wanted to run, to scream, but she couldn't. It was as if the whisper had paralyzed her, holding her captive in its thrall. Her eyes were locked on the shadowy figure, on the malevolent intelligence that she could feel emanating from it. Section 6. The Transformation. The room in the mirror began to change. The warm, inviting glow of the fire was replaced by a chilling cold that seemed to seep from the glass itself. The shadows deepened, stretching and twisting into monstrous shapes that danced at the periphery of Lily's vision. The figure in the chair rose, its form becoming clearer, more defined. Lily gasped. It was a man, dressed in the fashion of a bygone era. His face, though handsome, was etched with a cruelty that made her skin crawl. His eyes, dark and intense, seemed to bore into her very soul. "You cannot hide from me," the man said, his voice a low growl that seemed to vibrate through Lily's bones. "You are mine." He took a step closer, his hand reaching out from the mirror's surface. His touch sent a jolt of ice-cold terror through Lily's body. She stumbled back, breaking the spell that had held her captive. She wanted to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. She was trapped, her gaze locked with that of the figure in the mirror, his hand reaching out, closer, closer. Section 7. Trapped. Lily's breath hitched in her throat as the figure's hand breached the surface of the mirror. It was as cold as ice, its touch sending a wave of nausea through her. She tried to pull away, but it was as if an invisible force held her in place. The man's grip tightened around her wrist. His touch was like a brand, searing her skin. "You are mine now," he hissed, his voice a guttural rasp that echoed through the attic. "You will serve me." Panic surged through Lily. She thrashed against the man's grip, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Let me go," she screamed, her voice raw with terror, but her words were swallowed by the oppressive silence of the attic. The man's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You cannot escape me," he said, his voice a chilling whisper in her ear. "You are mine now, body and soul." He began to pull her towards the mirror, towards the darkness that lay beyond its surface. Desperation lent Lily a surge of strength. She ripped her arm free, staggering back from the mirror. The man's hand withdrew, disappearing back into the depths of the glass. But his eyes, those dark, malevolent eyes, continued to hold her captive. Lily knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that she had to destroy the mirror. It was the only way to break the man's hold on her. She grabbed a heavy bookend from a nearby shelf, its weight surprisingly comforting in her hand. With a scream of defiance, Lily brought the bookend crashing down on the mirror's surface. The glass shattered, a deafening sound that reverberated through the old house. Shards flew through the air, catching the lamplight like 1,000 tiny stars. The man in the mirror let out a roar of rage, his image fracturing along with the glass. Then with a final, ear-splitting crack, the mirror was no more. The room fell silent, the only sound Lily's ragged breathing and the tinkling of glass shards falling to the floor. Lily stood there for a long moment, her chest heaving, the bookend still clutched tightly in her hand. The attic seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the oppressive weight that had cloaked it lifting like a fog. The air was still, the silence almost deafening after the cacophony of the shattering mirror. She looked around at the destruction, at the shards of glass scattered across the floor. Sunlight streamed through the attic window, painting the dust motes in a warm, golden glow. It was as if the house itself was rejoicing in the mirror's destruction. A wave of exhaustion washed over Lily, leaving her weak and shaky. She sank down onto the dusty floor, her back against a cold stone wall. She could still feel the phantom touch of the man's hand on her wrist, the echo of his chilling words in her ears. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that she had had a narrow escape. She had looked into the face of evil and lived to tell the tale, but the experience had changed her, leaving an indelible mark on her soul. The next morning, Lily called a moving company. She didn't pack, didn't bother to sort through her belongings. She simply left, leaving behind the shattered remnants of the mirror and the chilling memories it held. She found a small apartment in the city, a place that felt safe and anonymous. She surrounded herself with people, with noise and light, anything to drown out the whispers that still haunted her dreams. Lily tried to move on, to put the experience behind her. She told herself it was just a nightmare, a figment of her imagination. But deep down she knew that the mirror had shown her something real, something dark and dangerous. The fear lingered, a constant shadow in the corner of her eye. She avoided looking in mirrors, afraid of what she might see reflected back at her. The man's words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of the terror she had faced. Life went on. Lily built a new life for herself, one filled with friends and laughter, but the memory of the mirror and the man trapped within its depths never truly faded. Sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, she would catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of her eye, a fleeting shadow, gone as quickly as it appeared, and in the dead of night when the world was quiet, she could almost hear his voice, a chilling whisper in the darkness. Lily knew deep down that she had not escaped unscathed. The mirror might be gone, but its hold on her remained. She was forever changed, marked by the encounter. And sometimes, when she looked into a mirror, she could almost swear she saw a flicker of movement in the glass, the faintest hint of a cruel smile playing on the lips of a man trapped within.